Hello and welcome to Say Yes to You and Why You Don't. I am Claudia Braun, mindset and lifestyle coach for women who are great saying yes to others, not necessarily as great at saying yes to themselves. And today I want to offer you a special gift that is a little different. I want to offer you a opportunity to see where your mind sabotages yourself. It is a free gift that I am offering to you, and I am going to gift you the opportunity to have a conversation with me so I can take you through ways in which your mind sabotages you. That's what I want to talk to you about today. So, in our 6 week series that we are going through, we're entering into the series about the mind. So, this will be a two-part series. And today I want to start with this way in which your mind has a main contributor to sabotage. So, one of the tools that I use in my coaching work with my clients is based on the teaching of positive intelligence. And it's very much in alignment with everything else that I practice in my life. So, I use positive intelligence with a couple of other tools. I will be sharing those with you as well as we move later on into this podcast this year. But this is such a great place to start because everybody, research shows, sabotages themselves. Everybody. The question is to what degree and in what area of your life. So here we are, women great at saying yes to others, not great at saying yes to yourself. There is a way in which you get in your own way. It seems like it's who you are, and it is an aspect of you, but it's not all of who you are. And it's not necessarily who you were meant to be, but it's who you've practiced being, and it's who you've programmed yourself to be at this point in your life. And if you're listening, you're interested in another way. And so always I talk about the first step to change is awareness. And so I want you to tap into this idea about self-sabotage. And I want you to understand from this conversation that we're having today is the main way sabotage shows up is this judge in the mind. Ever notice that you are having a conversation with somebody? Maybe you said something, you thought, well, I wish I didn't say that. And then you walk away and you have this constant berating of yourself of, oh my gosh, what is wrong with me? I'm so stupid. I shouldn't have said that. They must think I'm a complete idiot. Oh my God, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm saying things that are wrong. And people always tell me that I don't say the right thing. That litany that goes on, judging yourself relentlessly, not just catching yourself making a mistake, but then judging yourself for the mistake. That is what I'm talking about. This judge. And in another circle that I run with, they talk about this in another term. But always this judge is suspicious at best, vicious at worst. It is not out for your best interest, but it appears to be because it wants to point out to you, look at how you messed up. Look at how you got it wrong again. And then it will obsessively sometimes keep the reel going about you always get it wrong. You never get it right. What's wrong with you? Why can't you get it right? There's something wrong with you that you can't get it right. Nobody says things like that. How could you be so stupid to say something like that? What were you thinking? You just weren't thinking. The litany, it goes on. Mean, self-deprecating. So the judge shows up in three different ways. The first one is that it judges you. It just finds all the ways that you're not doing it right. It's nitpicky. one of my clients who's a realtor, and I was doing a conversation with some of their people, and yeah, they were all saying all the different ways that they can get it wrong with clients, or clients will come back to them of how they got it wrong, and then they, in their mind, think about how they should have been, could have been, would have been, not perfect enough, right? It's that feeling inside of you that I'm just not enough, not doing it good enough, not right enough, not worthy enough, not capable enough, not confident enough, not enough. That feeling, that litany in your mind is a very strong judge. That judge will keep you doing things you wish you didn't, saying yes to things you really don't want to do, always showing up to something when it's at the detriment of yourself. But it's because the judge is so active, saying, if you were a good person, you would do this. If you were a good daughter, if you were a good wife, if you were a good friend, if you were a good mother, you know the story. That's the judge knocking on your door, knocking in your head, constantly telling you that you have to keep at it. No rest, no sleep, no pause, got to keep going. So always, we talk about here, the key of change is awareness. So become aware of this judge in your mind. As I'm sharing with you the ways in which you may notice your mind going against yourself, pay attention to what's the common phrase your judge says to you. Is it, you messed up again? Is it, I have to do this because they won't like me and it just proves I'm not a good person, and then it just proves that all the ways in which I can't get it right? I mean, what's the story that keeps showing up in your mind? Because that story is how your judge and how sabotage in that way is undermining you. So that's one aspect. Think of the judge as the master saboteur, master way that sabotage undermines your success. Because think about it. If you have this voice inside your head constantly judging you, saying you're not good enough, perfect enough, doing it right, don't measure up, how easy is it for you to feel like it's okay to be you in the world? Because it's like a weight on your back, around your ankles, keeping you tied, keeping you stuck. So for anything to change, we have to become aware of it. So judge, self-sabotage. First, judging you. Second way the judge shows up is that it'll turn it around and it'll start judging others. So when we've been judging ourselves so mercilessly and seeing what's wrong with us, whether you judge your personal opinion, whether you judge your personal appearance, whether you judge your performance, the other way the judge operates is to turn it around and not just do that to yourself, then you start doing it to people in your life. So any one of us who has grown up with a critical parent has probably witnessed that firsthand, or you have a critical employer, or you have a critical husband or wife or children, what I know is that anybody who is criticizing themselves is also criticizing other people. And whether it's subtly or obviously, but usually, everybody I've seen, but it doesn't, I guess, it may not manifest as intensely, is that the judge will start judging others. You'll start seeing how they're not perfect, how they don't measure up, how incompetent they are. They can never get anything right. They always mess up. They say they're going to do something, they never follow through. All you do is see their shortcomings. One of my clients said to me, she's like, when I stopped judging myself so harshly, I noticed how critical I was of others. She would judge the performance of the women that she was having on her team. She would see how much they didn't do what they say they were going to do, how disappointed she was with them, that they didn't follow through, that they waited for her to run things instead of taking responsibility for themselves. She saw all the ways in which they underperformed. When she stopped judging herself, she was able to see how she was judging others. So sometimes, because we've been in this role of judgment of ourselves, we don't see what we're doing to others. But if you've ever been around somebody who's very critical and nothing you do is right for them, you know how it feels. It's not a particularly warm, fuzzy feeling, and it's not necessarily somebody you want to hang around with. Unless you get used to it and think that's what you deserve. But inside, it's not a feel-good feeling. But here's the thing. We teach ourselves what to expect. So if we're harsh on ourselves and judging ourselves and seeing all the ways in which we are inadequate, being around other people who do the same thing, it's going to feel kind of normal. But the opportunity here is to look at how you're judging other people and notice what that does to you. Because in the short run, it can feel good to judge somebody else because it can make you feel better. You're not feeling that great about yourself. You look at somebody else and going, well, look at how badly they operate, or look at what they do. Look at what a mess up they are. It can sometimes feel better to you to look at somebody else's shortcomings. But in the long run, when you focus on somebody else in a negative way, it has to reflect back onto you. Because what you're putting out, you will get back. It is the law of the universe. And so the opportunity here is to look at where your judge operates. And why is that important? Because we can't change something that we don't have awareness or clarity on. So until you get clear and aware of what you're doing, you can't change it. So the key here, like all things, is starting with the awareness. Oh, I'm very critical of others. Notice that if that's true for you. Or you might say, I'm actually not critical of others. I'm very forgiving of others. The problem I have is I'm very critical of myself. I don't expect those things of other people, but I do expect it of myself. Good to know. Or I don't expect those things of myself, but I do expect those things of others. Good to know. Again, the intention here is not to look with critical eyes or judging eyes. The key here is to have awareness and clarity. And then to see if you can have a bit of compassion for yourself at how things are going for you and how you've been operating. And again, as we start to shine a light on this, you get to see what's possible. Because, like I said, research shows we all sabotage ourselves. It's just to the extent and to the degree that we do. And like I said, when I started this podcast today, you have access through here to find out how sabotage is showing up for you. And I'm going to walk you through a process to help you understand how it's impacting you and what you can do differently. So, first way in which the judge shows up, critical of yourself. Second way in which it shows up, critical of others. The other way, third way the judge shows up is judging your circumstances. So how that operates is your mind says, oh, I'd be happy if he would change, or I'd be happy if this situation would change. I'd be happy if I didn't live here. I'd be happy if we had a different president, or I'd be happy if the world global market was different, or I'd be happy if my finances were different, or if my weight was different, or if my children were different. You get the picture. We're putting all of our happiness on external circumstances. And maybe that would be true, but you don't know. And here's the thing. External circumstances always change. If we're dependent on our happiness, that it has to be a beautiful sunny day at whatever temperature you think it needs to be, your barometer for happiness is constantly changing. But you can be happy regardless of what's happening in the world, regardless of what's happening with your family, regardless of what's happening in the global situation. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. But when our judge is active and it says, I'm only going to be happy if I'm making this amount of money, driving this car, living in this place, having this situation, it's a moving target. And we become like the willow tree and we are blowing in the wind. And our happiness, our peace of mind, our joy is fleeting. And this is about really coming back to what do you want for yourself? And that's why I'm really excited about this 6-week series on optimal wellness. And as we talk about your mind as this piece of this puzzle of optimal wellness, first part is looking at this judge and where this judge operates and shows up in your life. Again, nobody changes until they have clarity. So if you're not feeling as good as you wish you were, if your mind is constantly pulling you into a negative spiral, if you wake up feeling critical, judgmental, glass always feels kind of half empty, or it's getting towards that direction, or can't really maintain any well-being for any length of time, that's good to know. It's only a barometer of where you're at. Why do we take a temperature? Find out where you're at. It doesn't stay there. But until we find out where we're at, things can't change. Some people say, well, I don't want to look at things because if I look at things, then I get to see how I'm not happy or how things are and I don't like them. But the key here is until we look at things, we can't know how we can change and really feel as good as we can feel. It is a win-win situation. bring it into awareness, clarity, we then find the solution, the answer to what we're experiencing. So today is about the judge discovering, where do you feel the most impact of your judge? I know you all have one. Research shows it. And if you're more likely to say yes to somebody else than you are to yourself, I know there's a judge there. I absolutely know it. I've lived it. I coach it. So always, there is no judgment on discovering there's a judge. Question is it more active around yourself, self-judgment, more active around judging others, more likely to show up in judging your circumstances? And that begins the conversation to another way. And then, in addition to the judge, we have these 9 accomplice, call them accomplice saboteurs, that also get in the way. And that's for another episode, but I did want to bring it out as inviting you to take the gift that I offered at the beginning of the podcast, because I want you to be able to go and do a deeper dive with me so that you can really see how it shows up in your life and how can begin to shift it and undo these patterns that no longer serve you. And that's the key here. Undoing the patterns that no longer serve, so you can feel and be the you that you are here to be. That's what this is about. To be the best you for yourself, for your children, for your partner, for your community, for your family, all those people that you're here to serve, all those people that you are in relationship with. And I always say the key is your relationship with yourself, because everything is a ripple effect of this relationship. And if you're not feeling in harmony and balance and kindness and appreciation for yourself, it's going to ripple out. And you are going to experience the negative consequences of that on yourself. So, from this conversation today, I want to hear what you've identified. Where does your judge show up the most? Self, others, circumstances. Let me know. And access the gift that I'm offering. And this gift is going to show you the 9 different ways your mind is undermining your success. And I'm going to walk you through a process to help you see how you can shift these patterns. This gift is a $350 value that I want you to have because you are here, you are listening, and because you deserve to allow these patterns to be surfaced so they no longer run you. And imagine your life not being run by this master saboteur, your judge. So I thank you for being here today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for saying yes to you, for your taking in information that can absolutely change the trajectory of your life. And that's what I'm here to do, offer you tools and strategies that can change the trajectory of your life. I am Claudia Braun, mindset and lifestyle coach for women who are great saying yes to others, not as good as saying yes to themselves yet. And I will leave the link to the assessment and to the call with me so that you can experience the power of what is possible. All right. I look forward to being with you next week when we go a little bit deeper into the mind and we really look at these 9 different patterns and how they operate. Do take the assessment, do get on my calendar, and you will be able to take the dive deeper as we go next week into what these are all about and what are they doing to us. Bye for now.